Hey, what's up? It's Michael. If you've been paying attention, what I've been trying to do is start the conversation about homelessness, poverty, drug abuse of any kind. My focus will be on fentanyl. Um, Fentanyl is a drug that's ravaging my city, my community, especially here in Phoenix, but all around Glendale, Mesa, Tempe, Scottsdale, Happy Valley. I'm sure probably Wickenburg. I don't know about Yuma, but anyways, what I can tell you is this drug is very, very powerful. When I was first introduced to it, I thought I was buying Percocets, and I was buying them for pain because my back hurt, and I was at a job that required me to stand up tall for about 12 hours and cut steel all day and prefab some doors for the homes, houses, and some other businesses like that. Unfortunately, I had to give up that job because it made me kind of sick after a minute, and my son had issues as well with his health, and so I don't know. We just kind of fell off that job, and then eventually he got a job at a place called Complete Cam, and I started working there as well. When I was at this job, within a matter of a week, one of the guys that was working there had a ton of blues, and he was, just smoking them all the time in the truck and what have you. Now, I was on Suboxone at the time, and then I started taking Suboxone because a few months before that, I ended up on the streets. And the reason for that is because I relapsed, that when I talked about those Percocets that I took when I thought they were just for pain, I was wrong. Initially, that's what I was told they were. They're real. They're Percocets. Okay, they're real, whatever that means. But eventually, I found out not too long after they're called fentanyl, right? They're fentanyl blues, and people call them the blues or whatever. So people still call them perks, right? And the reason for that is probably money. They don't want to scare people and tell them what it really is. Years ago, many years ago, I was hooked on Percocets that I got from my doctor because I hurt my back on the job. I think I got about 120, 130 every month, and they were big though. They were big, full of aspirin or Tylenol, whatever. They weren't just little pills. But that took me back into my old habits too as well. I mean, at that time I was almost clean 7 years, and so at that time, when I started backsliding with everything I was doing, I ended up doing meth, and I was trying to do anything just to numb myself because I was kind of devastated from losing my job. I had a job for 2 years, longest job I've ever stayed with, and I was a maintenance mechanic and a welder, and I learned so much on that job, and I brought so much to that job. But because of the recession back in those days, around 2008, between 2008 and 2009, they had to cut ties because they just spent millions of dollars on new equipment. And what can you say? They weren't paying attention to the markets. They weren't very smart. Anyways, they had to lay off 4 people, and I was one of them. Low man on the total bill. Fortunately, one of the guys got to him first. Said, "I'll take a pay cut." I couldn't. I wasn't smart enough to do that right off the rip. So I was like, anyways, going home with my girlfriend at the time and her 2 kids, who I ended up adopting eventually. One of them, unfortunately, is gone due to an accident. The other one is still around. She has beautiful babies. They're my grandbabies. One of them I haven't even met yet, and just recently started to see her on Facebook because she ended up friending me, and she's going slow because she was hurt by the way everything happened recently. I've talked about that before, but I don't know if I'm going to get into that right now. We'll see how it plays out. But so again, I was hooked on pills before. I also at that time was buying morphine 100s at threes, right, for $3 a piece. Morphine 100s for $3 a piece is what I meant to say. And so those were fire. You know what I mean? I thought, anyways, because at the time I was doing a lot of meth, and I used them to take the edge off. That's been my MO. I like doing meth. I used to like doing meth, and I shoot it a lot, and so that took the edge off because after a while you get kind of edgy, right? Not paranoid, because I fought that stuff so hard when I was younger. I figured, man, all that does is ruin my high, and if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So I never was paranoid or out of my head or what. Maybe a couple times in the beginning when I came home to my girlfriend, she was like, "What are you talking about? You're stupid." And all. Yeah, I probably was, but I can't be for sure. Anyways, let's say I agree to disagree, but more likely it was true. So But eventually, it's just it's just another thing. It's just a way of life. It becomes. I was a functioning uh, meth addict. I didn't try to get a job and hold the job down, but I could function throughout the day and I could hustle and make sure everything got taken care of, like the bills, whatever, for a short period of time. And then eventually that just took to the wayside and we just ended up bouncing from, hotel to hotel. And me going to jail, prison, hotel, jail. And it was kind of like that for a few years and it was miserable. But, in reality, I should have been smarter this time and not, but I wasn't, right? I was already about 6, going on 7 years clean, right? This last time, I did 5 years flat in the joint. Started in about 2013, and I got out in December of 18. And day for day, it's about 1,875 days, something like that. So, by the grace of God, while I was in there, I just got focused. Nobody was really there for me at that time, except maybe my mother and my dad, who I lost 3 months prior to me getting out of prison, which was kind of a bummer. Actually, it was really a bummer, but I wouldn't want the man to suffer after I've seen some of the photos that I wasn't aware of how bad he was when I got out. And I seen some of those photos, and man just deteriorated in absolute nothing in a matter of no time. It was kind of scary. I've seen that before. My brother David passed away in '93 of AIDS, and he came home, and nobody told me. I was about 10 when he came home, and he came home because he was scared. He didn't want to die alone, right? Eventually, he wasn't in the house maybe 6 months to a year or something like that. And he was a stranger to me. I came home and who's this guy on my couch? But eventually found out, hey, he's my older brother. He lives in Louisiana, all that. And that's a whole nother story. But anyways, I watched him deteriorate. When I went to go see him before he died, he was nothing but bones and skin. And I remember I put my hand on his head, just let him know I was there. And he let out some kind of a moan, like maybe he was trying to talk, but he was already gone in the head. Anyways, I never saw him wake up. A couple days later, he was gone. So, that's a hard thing to watch, and a slow death like that. But I've had death all around me, including losing my son recently. And the bad thing about that is that I was already in a messed up mind. My mind was already gone to the point where all I could think about every day was the hustle and to survive. Because I was homeless, forced out on the streets because of my condition, because of the way I was acting. My girlfriend at the time was just really pissed off at me, and she never, hey Michael, we need to do something about this. Michael, can you go back to CBI? Can I take you to CBI? I actually had her drop me off once, and all she could do was scream at me and yell at me and tell me I'm stupid because I was talking about things that were more of a yard circumstance, like a prison circumstance. She didn't understand the lingo and just felt that I was being dumb and an idiot, but actually it was right on point. It's a street lingo. She doesn't know anything about it. So anyways, but I remember that, you know what I mean? I remember there was no compassion. There was no understanding. It was like, you're a piece of shit and you chose to do what you did, and that's the way it is. And in a way, from looking at it from her perspective, it's kind of true, because she was protecting herself and her interests, which was her and the babies in the house, you know what I mean, and the rest of the family, while I was being a piece of shit and chose the dope over them. That's what they think, right? But that's not how it works, right? Addiction is addiction. It's an illness. Now, I didn't used to think that way, but that way of thinking got me in trouble. And what I mean, it got me in trouble is, being 6 or 7 years clean, I was complacent. I wasn't working on any kind of sobriety. Didn't have a relapse prevention plan. I just said, I'm never going to touch that shit again. And, once you start messing up, like, addicts have this thing where there's something that they really enjoy that they get off on and initially, but they forget about all the pain it caused them and all the pain it caused everybody else. They're not thinking about that because all they can think about is the high. But initially, I was just trying to, survive my back. And all of a sudden, that took me to the streets, and I started doing meth again. I started doing heroin again. And I wasn't even doing pills at that time. I was just doing meth and heroin. And the reason I do heroin, if you can remember, is because I'm taking the edge off the G. And when you're on the streets, especially nowadays, you don't want to even go to sleep. The minute you go to sleep, if you can't keep one eye open when you wake up, everything you own will be gone. Your backpack, your bicycle, and maybe even your shoes. I woke up one time, my belt was taken. I was like really shocked that my belt was taken off my waist because that thing was so tight in the belt loops. I thought there was no way somebody could have done that and not wake me up. But I was just in a freaking stupor on freaking fentanyl, right? And I found myself in the rocks behind this laundromat next to this Jack in the Box, right on the corner where I used to live. And I woke up. My brand new Raiders hat is gone. The one that my son gave to me, that bought me, and I was really, man, I was so pissed. I'm still pissed off about that because that's the thing we shared. My son and I, we shared sports, we shared football, we shared games, and we shared our passion for working on cars and doing stuff like that. And I'll get to that point a little bit later, but that's important because those are the things that relate to me and I relate to him for. That's the kind of relationship we had at that point. We were friends, and he looked out for me. He wanted to bring me home. He brought me home once, and no sooner than maybe 12 hours later, I'm back out on the streets because girlfriend comes home. What the are you doing here? You know what I mean? And blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to take that shit. Not because I felt disrespected, just because I felt like, really? Who the you think you are? You know what I mean? All of a sudden you're all high and mighty, and I've been clean for 2 years, and I got a job, and you're a piece of shit. Wow. I took care of that family off and on for 13 years. I did 7 years in prison at that time. 5 year, 2.5 year. But every time I got out, man, it was about them, my kids, and my other kids, man. Every dime I ever made, every dime I could spend on them, that's what happened. But guess what? Nobody ever appreciated that stuff. And you know what really hurts is that I was so out of it and so stuck on what I was trying to do because of all the shame and guilt and anger and paranoia that I was feeling. So what happened is that I ended up ignoring the one person in my life that really needed me the most, which was my daughter, my youngest daughter. And for her respect out of her, you'll notice that lately I'm not going to use any names. I'll say my son, my daughter, my oldest daughter, my girlfriend, right? Reason for that is that they want to protect themselves from me because they don't understand what it is I'm doing, right? I posted something on Facebook the other day, and I said, I'm focused on my mind, spirit, and body. You may not understand what I'm doing, but I got a good handle on it, something like that. That's the truth, because this is not just about me, all right? I'll explain. So the last 2.5 years of my life have been absolutely dreadful. I mean, if you've ever experienced dread in your life, like, I don't want to live anymore, I don't want to have to do this anymore, I just want to die, like literally, not because your boyfriend left you, or your car got stolen, or you lost your job. That's something, right? I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that and those feelings are valid, but I'm talking about dread. Like, I couldn't trust anybody. I had a ton of friends, but none of them I trusted. I couldn't rely upon anybody. Nobody had my back when it came down to it. I'd pass out, my shit would be gone, everything I accumulated. Now, half those things were probably stolen, if not most of them, because I'm homeless and I'm just trying to survive, and so I hustled for the rest, and most of it came down to the point where it was survival. So what I mean about survival mode is like, once you start doing a drug that's got you by the boo-boo, I used to say, especially fentanyl, this drug was totally different than any other drug I've ever done. I mean, if you really wanted to and somebody really kicked your ass and said, Michael, you're not going out today, you're done, I don't want you doing this shit anymore, closed the door, locked it, and said you're through, chances are I'd bust open the door. But if for some reason I decided to stay and work it through, all I had to do is sleep it off. Eat a good meal, sleep it off, feel like crap for a week, but I'm good. With opiate drugs, it's not the same. See, opiates, they tear you apart from the inside out. The reason being is because in your liver processes these opiates at a certain level, right? And after a short amount of time, you're going to need more and more and more to reach that high that you're looking for, right? And then after the high is gone, you're going to keep having this paranoia or this dreadful feeling like, man, if I don't get what I need soon, I'm going to be sick. And being sick from opiates really sucks. Some people die from it. Some people have died from it. Fortunately, I've never had a habit that big to ever hurt me like that, but I have died from it twice in my life. Once when I was a kid, my wife saved my life. Um, I was in the bathroom. I was getting ready to take a shower, and I had some crack, right? And I had my heroin, and I had this big syringe that I didn't know what I was doing, right? I've done it before a couple times, maybe like 30 times, because the guy that was living at my house that was helping us pay our rent was also a crackhead and a heroin addict, and so he would kick me down some of that heroin, and I liked it. You know what I mean? It took the edge off of what I was doing. So after that, anyways, a few months later, I'm in the house, in the bathroom. She's there. This is not our house, but these people were nice enough to let us stay there. They don't live there. Most of it is like a lot of furniture that hasn't been moved yet, but they let us stay there because we were their neighbors for a while, and truthfully, we were paying our rent, and it was a decent life. Better. It was better than nothing, I could say. I won't say it was a decent life, but it was better than nothing. So I'm in the bathroom. I'm getting ready to take a shower, and I've always wanted to do this because everybody told me this is it, right? This is the shit. You're gonna do a blast of heroin, and you're gonna chase it, smoking rock, and you'll never feel anything ever better. But you know what? That's never happened. I've never been successful at doing that. But that day, I took so much that I was flopping like a fish or doing something in there. She said she reached under the freaking door to check my pulse, and she couldn't get the door open, so she ran across the street and got a couple friends, and a couple neighbors anyway, and they came over, broke the door open, called 911. They gave me like 5 bags of this stuff. I don't know what it's called, 5 bags to make sure that I wasn't dead. I ended up in Maryville Hospital. They treated me like crap. I mean, the doctors, the nurses, I was just miserable. I was coughing up blood, don't know why I was doing that. But they ended up giving me a paper suit because I was naked when they found me, brought me in. They gave me a paper jumpsuit, and they forced me out of the hospital. I got about halfway to Indian School on the 51st, and I was literally swerving 10 feet at a time. I couldn't keep a straight line. I was so sick and so messed up. Finally, the security guard from the hospital chased me down, and when he caught me, he says, "Look, I'm going to take you back." I'm like, I should have never been kicked out. So I get back, they call me a taxi, I get home, and all that heroin I had, I got rid of it right away. I'm never touching that stuff again. Because I was a crackhead at the time. It really wasn't about heroin anyways, so it was easy for me to say, I'm never touching that again. But months later, a year, I ended up in prison because of that crack that I was addicted to. But guess what? I gave that stuff up about 30 years ago. I've only touched it maybe 3 times, and I didn't even feel a thing. So thank God that my prayers were answered, because I was on my knees every day for a year, literally begging God, don't ever let me be like that again. He kept his promise, but did I find something else that I enjoyed more? Meth. I could smoke meth, I could snort meth, and all that. It was all good. But when I found the needle, it was a wrap. I was like, man, this is awesome. And the drugs were better back then than they are now. I'm not saying that drugs are good by any means, but I'm going to say that what they do now with the meth that you get is cut by fentanyl, and that is the reason I believe that is not that they don't have other things to cut it with. They're cutting it with that, so you'll go up real fast, you come down even faster, you spend more money quicker, and that just makes you into like a rabid dog. You're just chasing your tail all the time, trying to chase that, and then eventually, if you haven't learned yet, then fentanyl is the smoking thing. And I was doing that because I got hit by a car, right? I was more drawn to that than I was my real drug of choice, because that stuff took the pain away. My real drug of choice just caused me more pain and caused more infection in my legs. And so I wasn't paying any attention to that. It didn't matter. I wanted to die anyways inside. I lost my girlfriend. Nobody gives a shit about me anymore. I don't have a phone. I can't call my mom. I can't call my sister. I ended up at my brother's a few times, but that didn't work because across the street I knew where to get drugs, and I was doing the same thing. So it was just like this revolving door. It was a constant hustle. It didn't matter how long I might be clean a week, maybe 2 weeks, and something else would happen. I think the longest time during that period of time was a little over a month while I was getting rehab for my leg, but I wasn't really clean. I was strung out on painkillers, and I told the doctors, hey man, we got to do something, because you can't send me home like this. I'll be sick, whatever. And they said, well, get a hold of your provider. And so I got a hold of my provider after that, and they gave me about a week's worth of Oxycontins, every 4 hours, 10 milligrams, just to help with my pain. But what they didn't tell me is that they needed, by policy, their policy, for me to go see a pain specialist. So I couldn't go back to them and get more. So a week later, when I'm expecting to get my meds refilled, they have a sign up in the actual hospital room or the doctor's office. Excuse me. That said, look, we can't give you any more pain minutes, and we're not going to give you no Xanax, nothing like this. If you have a problem, you need to see a pain specialist. When that doctor came in and told me that, I was so freaking pissed off. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? Don't you understand that people get sick from this stuff? And not the anxiety and the frustration with it alone makes you miserable. But not only that, you get physically sick. You puke, you urinate on yourself, you shit yourself, you can't have any control of your bowel movements, vomit. It's bad. And so I told him, I looked at the doctor's face and said, look, man, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be sick. And I blame you for that. I blame this organization for that, because I'm not going to be sick. You don't know why? Because the minute I get out of here, I'm going to go right down there about 19th Avenue in Dunlap, and I'm going to score. Did I have any money? Didn't need it. I had an Obama phone. I had my phone. I kept my phone. I sold the Obama phone. Got the 12 pills for it. Something like that. And so I was okay for a minute, but I wasn't thinking long term. What's going to happen after that? So I made it back to the house, my brother's house, and they didn't notice anything. Nothing was good. Nothing was a problem. But then when he told me I needed to have an escort every time I left, I was doing twice a week physical therapy. I was doing, and I had to go to the doctors. I did take an escort once to go visit somebody in the hospital for about maybe all of an hour, 2 hours tops. And I felt so bad because we haven't been able to talk since then. She was a very good friend to me while I was in that rehab place, Coronado. She took care of me. And she started making me feel human again. And that was very important to me. And so I purposely went to saw her in the hospital, because she went from that place to a hospital. I didn't know why. She was so surprised and so happy that I was there, and I was happy to see her. But anyways, I had an escort that I had to take with me from that house. And that guy's ended up being kicked out for theft and all this other stuff since then. He was just smooching off the what we call the ministry at the time, Set Free Ministry. I don't know if I can say that, but I did. It's no longer Set Free; it's something else. Hopefully I'll be partnered with them in my journey and my quest to get people off the streets and get people off dope. I know that I'm all over the place, but I'm hoping that you'll get to understand that my life has been good and it's been bad. Most of the really good things is about learning about myself and learning about society and spirituality and health and all that all happened in prison, and I don't regret any of it, because that was probably the most positive shit that ever happened to me. I mean, when I went to seminary, I went to HVAC school, I graduated that, but I didn't get my certs because I got moved to another yard. I went to mechanic school, CAC, Central Arizona College for automotive technology, modern automotive technology. I had a 4.0 GPA. Dude, I was a dropout, and they said I had attention deficit disorder, and I was bipolar, and I was LD, learning disability. All those wrapped up in one. Guess what? None of that was true. All it took was motivation, and I was motivated because I was scared to death to get out of prison and not have a life for myself. I needed to take care of myself. I needed to take care of my kids. I needed to do everything I needed to do, and I worked really hard to get there. So when I walked out them doors, I held my head up high, even though I got screwed every now and then. One time I was on IPS out of prison, and I had a full-time job, and I was a full-time student in AAI. So my days were packed, and I could still make it to my appointments with my probation officer, all that stuff. But they told me I couldn't work and be a full-time student at the same time. That fucked everything up for me, excuse my French. So what happened, I had to give up the school because I have kids, and I made an initiative and to make sure that they were taken care of. I gave my ex-wife $400 a month. We had an addendum wrote up. She signed it. Her boyfriend signed it. My mom signed it. So it wasn't a legal document, but it said, here, what I'm willing to do. And it actually really helped when I got in court, and we ended up really getting a divorce because we've been separated for a long time. Her concern was that I was a ex-con, I'm this, that, and the other, and it was a female judge, and she said, you know what? That has nothing to do with why we're here. You have an addendum right here. She held it up. You signed this person signed this, is this your signature? Yes, ma'am. So what happened? All of a sudden, you can't deal with what he's dealing with? Oh, blah, blah, blah. No, ma'am. they gave me the minimum requirement to pay child support. I found out later, a few years later, that my youngest wasn't even mine. A week before Father's Day, that was something else. My girlfriend at the time kept asking me, "Doesn't that affect you?" I didn't even blink. It did hurt me a lot, and for more reasons than I can explain right now. But yes, I was tore up, but I didn't let her see it. I was very A-type personality at the time. I was a gun-ho. I made sure and run a tight ship. I took care of my daughter, my adopted daughter that way, my son, and my wife. At first, it was like, what the hell? And then it was like, man, I was so happy. At least at the time, they were happy that I created a structured environment for them, and I took care of them with every ounce of my being. When that went away is when I lost my job, and that job that I had at the time was a really good job. And I didn't know what to do. I put all my eggs in that one basket. See, I remember I told you that I had school and I had work. That job took precedence over everything else because eventually I got a raise within a month. Went from $8 an hour to like $15 an hour. They liked me. I was good at what I did. And it just so happens they went corporate, and that corporation decided, well, we got to get rid of these people because we spent too much money in the last year on equipment. And guess what? We're in a recession. Still broke my heart. So when I came home, my back was already messed up in 2 weeks. I was doing a blade change on something called the Max Saturn, and this was a tire shredder, and the blades on that thing are about 175 pounds a piece with 50 pound spacers, about 26 going on and 26 going off. And what that was designed to do was to chop up big passenger tires and truck tires as well. It worked very well. And anyways, I was responsible for doing a blade change on my day off because I was on call, and I wanted to get through it as fast as I could because if I got done in 2 hours or 4 hours, I got paid for 8, so that was a good thing. I had to use some of the help around there that couldn't even speak English, but they understood the process, so they helped me. But on one day, I grabbed the plate off the machine because it's chest high, and I go to put it on the freaking forklift, and I twisted up my back, and it hurt like hell. And that's why I ended up doing the Percocets for like months, and I was given those by the doctors like candy, and I didn't know any different. I tried different drugs too. I was like, I don't like this. What was it? I can't remember. There was a few different drugs that I tried, and some of them had narcotics in them, and some of them were narcotics, and some of them they weren't. They tried to put me on naproxen, right? And they told me to take 3 every hour until it's in my system. It made my skin burn. It literally made my skin burn, and I couldn't keep my legs still, and I was frying from the inside out. That was the weirdest thing. So I had to give those up because they weren't working, and I think it had something to do with the fact that I'm going from these drugs that are narcotics to these drugs that aren't, but I don't know for sure. Anyways, it's coming up on about 30 minutes, and again, this is Michael Merriman, and I'm trying to start the conversation. Let's start something. Every time I post a video, it's going to be, let's start something. And it's like, well, what have we started? I want to start the conversation. Listen, if you have an idea, a good one or a bad one, and you're willing to be open with it, just make a video and share it with me. Get a hold of me on Messenger if you want to spread me on Messenger. I'm going to vet you. I'm going to make sure that you are who you are, because there's a lot of fake people there. Unfortunately, I've had to deal with a lot. You can check out my YouTube videos on my YouTube channel, Michael Merriman, or michaelmerriman0@gmail.com. But Michael Merriman will work. Look for the little emoji that's the Chucky doll, and you can see the latest videos that I've done there. There's not a whole lot, but there's some really good interviews with a man named Stuart, who was given a few weeks to live. Fortunately, he's still alive, but I don't know how much longer. There's also Nathaniel. He was voted in 2003 most funny man in Arizona. He did 7 movies, was on his way to Hollywood, and I got his complete story on, and it was a really good interview. It was about 40 minutes long. It was so fun because the guy's hilarious, right? And I told him, hey, nut up, man. I want you to make this video your bitch, and I really meant that. And what I'm saying is, I didn't want him to cower. I wanted him to be honest, open, and himself, and he was. And it was a great video. I hope you see that one. Let's start something, Nathaniel. Anyways, he's still here. He's a good friend of mine. The reason that I have this new kind of background is because I can't have people walking behind me anymore. They're not supposed to see people in my video. At least they don't want that, because people could be hiding out here, and I'm sure they are. They don't want people to find them. And I was just told straight up by management, that's the way it is. And I'm okay with that. I don't want to break any laws, and I don't want to break any hearts, and I don't want to hurt any feelings. But the reality is, this is important because in my city right now, fentanyl blues, a little blue pill, right? It's got an M on it, right? And this M should be the first thing and the first sign you should see. People smoke it on tinfoil. I know that anybody in my community have seen several people do it, like QT, Circle K, AMPM, the canals, Tent City downtown. You know, look, we're dying. Addicts are dying. People are dying. Good people are dying. I'm a good person, and I died twice. Once when I was a kid, and once recently. Thankfully, a guy brought me back to life. I didn't even know him. He was a stranger. The only reason he was even near me is because I wanted to borrow some oil. So you see how crazy that stuff is. It's pretty bad. Not only am I trying to teach society and people who don't know anything about this what this is like and what I was like, I want to help people avoid it as well as they can, and if people need help, to find it. Now, my ultimate goal in life at this moment, is to create a network of people and associates, both clinics, hospitals, homeless shelters, AA groups, anything like that, to come together and stop hiding in the shadows. We need to come out and go, look, we're human, right? And so we need help. We're no different than anybody else. Addicts are good people, and there's some that do bad things, and I've done bad things. Fortunately, I've never really had to hurt anybody physically in order to make my shit happen, because I got a good-looking face and the gift of gab. That's kind of how it was. I could talk anybody out of their shorts and then probably sell it back to them for a good penny. That's just the way I've always was. So, but I've not been like that in many, many, many years, right? And that's because I believe lying and manipulation is bad. And I was really bad. I was really good at it, but I was really bad about it. I ended up believing my own shit after a while, And so one of the most important things you can do as an addict, especially when you're trying to get clean, if you're an addict and you are clean, focus on your health. Number one, are you being honest with yourself and everybody else every day? Take inventory. What are you doing? I mean, is it honest, or is it not honest? Am I being truthful, or am I not being truthful? Lately I've had to skirt a few people around and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to tell you, don't treat me that way. Don't act that way towards me, because that's not fair, because that's not where my heart and my head is with these people. And man, I get a lot of crap all the time. I do. Here, Facebook, anywhere, I do. I'm like a bullshit magnet, kind of, and it's a good thing that I was so good at it once that I could see it coming a mile away. And it's kind of funny. It's not in a way, but it is, because the more and more I tell them the truth, the less and less they believe it. They keep coming at me, and finally I just have to make an example of them and say goodbye, because they're not caring, they're not paying any attention, not just to my words, but to life in general. So this day, I want to just remind everybody about this Let's Start Something. Make your own video. Get a hold of me on Messenger. You can email me at michaelmerriman0@gmail.com, michaelmerriman@onmail.com, YouTube, make a comment. If you don't want to friend me, you can message me through the back door of Facebook. If you don't know how to do that, people have done that recently, because they want to remain anonymous. But my idea is not to be anonymous. I'm not trying to hide. I got nothing to hide, and I've done a lot of things that people would say are horrible. Even people I talk to say, "Man, you were messed up," and like, yeah, I was, and that's not cool. It wasn't, and it isn't. But drugs and a bad situation and not being honest with yourself is one thing that always got me in trouble. You know what I mean? I had to learn recently about, my relationship with my girlfriend. I learned a lot about that, because when I got out of prison and we started to get back together, when we got our own place, we got a place with many adults in it, I didn't fit in. My ideals and my hopes and my dreams didn't fit the mold with everybody else. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was not only hell-bent on being the best Christian I could be, but I wanted to be a pastor. And every time I presented that idea, I was always shot down. There was no support at home for that. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that, like I said, I'm an A-type personality. I take control. It's my way or the highway, and it's always protective. It's always a good thing. Just like God has a good thing, He chastised those He loves. If I didn't love the people I was with, I wouldn't be the way I was with them. But I couldn't this time because I had all this shame, guilt, and paranoia built up from not being there for so long and not knowing anybody anymore. It's been like 5 years. We never even had a decent conversation, and all of a sudden, within a matter of months, I'm at the altar again, and I'm moving in with them. It was not easy for me, and I wasn't honest with myself. But yet, I put my nose to the grind. I went to work every day. I busted my ass to make sure there was food on the table, electricity was paid, water bill was paid, rent was paid. Now, I was sharing that responsibility with my girlfriend's sister, which was really important, and we were just supportive of everybody else. I didn't force my girlfriend to get a job or do what she wanted to do. I let her do what she wanted to do because that's the way it should be. You know what I mean? Kind of figure it out yourself. I would never force anybody to do anything they didn't want to do. I never treated anybody like a piece of shit, but I got crazy and stupid in my head. Those drugs affected me. I can remember waking up from a stupor and being assaulted in my own house because I'm talking nonsense and who knows gibberish. I know that's what goes on because I've seen it before. I've actually seen my girlfriend do it more times than myself, way back in the day when she was on meth and taking pills and stuff. But anyways, I know that's what was going on because I had this sense of feeling like, what the fuck's going on? I feel like I'm being attacked. I was being attacked. I can tell you right now, there was a lot of evil and demonic stuff going in that house, and this thing was following me around everywhere I went. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff I went through during the height of the pandemic, how I ended up and where I ended up. Those are some very personal stories, and if we ever become friends, I'll be happy to share them with you. But in reality, I want to help people get off drugs, especially fentanyl blues. There's not enough information. I mean, on the news, yeah, they talk about it all the time. Thank God, no offense to the cartel or the drug dealers out there, but they caught about $1.6 million worth of blues the other day and came off the streets. Thank God. How many lives that probably would have saved. I mean, we're dropping like flies out there. I'm telling you, this is a serious deal, and that's why I'm going to be focused on it. That, I need to get some of the laws changed. I think it's really important that people are treated with respect and dignity. Even in the profession field, in their profession, whether they're counselors, nurses, doctors, they kind of got this jaded sense of personality. They're like, I'm better than you, and they treat you like shit. You don't get the medication or treatment you deserve. Because they just don't respect you, because you're a lower life form to them, I guess, and that's not right. And I want to change the laws to where they can't do that. Otherwise, I get to own their car, their house, and anything like that. Why? Well, you're treating me like shit. This is your profession. My insurance is covering your bills, paying you to take care of me, but you're treating me like a scumbag. That's not right. So I hope to get that changed. Those are my ideas. This kind of video right now is just kind of all over the place. I haven't been able to get focused on exactly what I want to do because of where I'm at and legal reasons, but I hope this can help. I hope people will take time and watch this stuff. It's coming up on 40 minutes. That's way longer than I wanted to take, but I'm just happy to be here and happy to be where I'm at right now. I've never been in a better place, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. I'm honest about that, and I'm finally living my life, and my dreams are going to come true, for sure. I definitely got the vibe for that and the focus for that. I also got the feeling from a lot of people, man, that this is the right thing to do. I mean, serve your community. Pretty soon I'll have my education, and it'll be legal, and I'll be able to do it for pay, but I'll probably go over and above my pay and make sure people are helped and get the right, go in the right direction, at least. Not everybody wants it, not everybody needs it. I've had plenty of people offer it to me, and I'd be like, nah, I'm not ready for that, and I wasn't. But I'm done, and I can honestly tell you that I'm done. I'm not ever going to be that guy who's just going to give in to those useless senses of urges. I don't have any more to hide. I don't need to be numb anymore. I've taken care of, and me and God have taken care of all the pain, and the help from my mother has been very tremendous. If it wasn't for my mother, I wouldn't be alive today, I can promise you that. She's an awesome and courageous and wonderful woman. She's the only person I've ever felt that walks on water in my life, legitimately. She's a holy person, and I hope, before she gets too soft and too painful, I hope the Lord takes her, because, she needs to go home and rest. She's done nothing but help me and my kids and my brother and sister's kids, our whole family throughout her life. She's never said no. She's never took the back seat. She's always been the breadwinner, and that's my mom. And I love you, Mom. I really do. So I look forward to meeting as many people as I can through this process. So far, it's been really good. It's had its ups and it's had its downs. But I'm at 40 minutes right now. I'm going to let it go. Again, let's start something. Start the conversation. If not with me, with somebody. You know, just be honest with yourself and be honest with other people. There's nothing to hide. You know, if people can't take you for who you are and respect you for what you've been through, they're not your friends. You know, and they think they're better than you. You know, I posted something the other day is that the reason why somebody's always bringing me down or trying to talk down to me and tell me I'm something I'm not, and try to pick me apart is because when you're standing next to that person, you make them look like a piece of shit. And I said, well, in that sentence, I said, well, here's something you have to realize, that according to the Word of God, which I love, everybody's a piece of shit. There's only one who's right, and that was Jesus Christ. Can we get past that with His help? Absolutely. Now, I'm not preaching to you. I'm just telling you that's the way it's been for me. And I find that to be very true. Nobody's better than you. Nobody's worse than you. You're just human. And we all need help. This life has been very stressful with the pandemic and everything recently. People are scared. People don't know how to handle it. Fortunately, I haven't been sick from it. I was told I had it once, but I don't think I did. I've had my vaccinations. I don't know if they work, but at least I'm doing the right thing and being told by my country what to do. And as far as I know, they've never killed anybody by doing that. Not recently, maybe back in the 1800s. Look at that yourself. But I love everybody, man. Just do what you got to do. Again, this is Michael Merriman from Let's Start Something. Bye.